Well, hello everybody. Welcome to P.B.M. Money. Today, I want to talk about something that is hard for me to believe. I have heard this before, but I just heard it again, and every time I hear it, it's hard for me to believe. The majority of Americans cannot handle financially a $1,000 emergency bill. Wow. In the richest country in the world, with the highest incomes in the world, most Americans can't afford a $1,000 bill. So I sat and thought about that for a few minutes, and I thought, because I had just done a video talking about just because you have money in the bank doesn't mean you have to spend the money in the bank. So I thought, well, if I had a $1,000 bill, as an example, something happens to my car, how could I handle that bill? How many different ways could I handle that bill and do it in a way that wouldn't bury me financially? Or, worse yet, keep me from having a vehicle so that I could go make a living. So I made a list, and believe it or not, there was quite a few different ways to do it. And the purpose of this video is twofold. Number one, to maybe give some insight on different ways to handle bills, but more importantly, I've always been trying to teach people to think outside the box when it comes to income and expenses, because if you think in the box like everybody else, your finances will be like everybody else's. So I was forced to think like this when I had no money, and I was part of the majority of the Americans. Because when you have no money, you have to come up with ways, or you just end up getting further and further and further behind to where it almost feels like you'll never catch up. So anyway, on with numbers. Okay, the first way, obviously, for those of us on these channels, is an emergency fund. And this information is where the $1,000 emergency fund began, right here. Another way, and I've used this one, is Charities. I've used them a couple of times. I've used food banks when I had no money. Went to my church when I needed help with rent. But the one that I remember the most is after my surgery, I needed medications, and they were very expensive, and I had no money. And there was a charity organization in the basement of a church here, and they gave you a 90-day supply of your medicine to give you a chance to get up and figure it out. And I did that. That was a lifesaver to me. Now, the next one is a way that most people will handle the emergency, and that's a credit card. If you make enough money that you've got a credit card and you don't have an emergency fund, what's wrong with you? If you qualified for a credit card, you should scrimp and save all you can to put $1,000 in an emergency fund so you don't have to pay interest on your credit card. But a credit card is an option. Now, off of the credit card, there are 2 or 3 other options that you could do. As an example, you could put it on your credit card and then go get a side hustle. Go get a part-time job till you pay that $1,000 off. Go flip burgers. Do something, but put it on the credit card temporarily. Don't let it sit there for 5 years so you end up paying double. You could also put it on a credit card, make your first payment, and then if you got the credit, get yourself a balance transfer card and move that balance to a balance transfer card. That way you're not paying interest on that money. And you can get those up to 21 months of interest free. So if you've got a $1,000 bill that you move over and it takes you 20 months, that's $50 a month. And no interest. So $50 a month is a lot easier to handle than $1,000, and $50 a month on your regular credit card is not going to pay that off in 2 years. Trust me. Another way to do it is you could put it on a credit card because it's quick, and then go to your bank or credit union and get a personal loan, pay the credit card off, and then pay the credit union. You're still paying interest, but you won't be paying near as much interest. On a credit card, you'll be paying anywhere from 15 to 25% interest on that money. And if you get a personal loan, you'll be paying 4 or 5% interest. A lot less. You pay it off a lot quicker. Another option would be, and I've got this on my checking account just for security. Well, my dad used to use this like a regular credit card, an overdraft protection for your checking account. If he needed something and he didn't have room on his credit card, he just wrote a check. Now it worked, but he paid interest to the bank on that. So, I mean, if you put overdraft protection on your checking account, you got $1,000 on there, just write a check for it, and it'll go onto your overdraft protection, and then you'll just be paying on that, paying the interest on it. Now, this is one that is not open to everybody, but usually if you work for a small business, like where you know the owners and you've been there a while and there's mutual trust going on, you get a payroll advance, because no employer wants to lose their employee because their car broke down and they can't get to work. So they'll loan you $1,000 up front and take it out of your paycheck each week. That's an option. And this one I've used several times. I had a transmission go out of my vehicles twice. And I found an independent garage owner who was getting started. And I said, look, if you'll get this transmission, put it in my vehicle, I will pay you $100 a month in cash every month until it's paid off. And he said, okay. Now I had to sign an agreement, and I think I had to have a co-signer, I'm not sure. But that was fine. I mean, I had no intention of screwing the guy. I just needed my car so I could go make a living. Another one would be to just get a personal loan. I mean, some people have a relationship with their bank, especially if you live in the country where everybody knows everybody and everybody knows everybody's business. They can just walk in and say, hey, I need a cashier's check for $1,000. Can you put it into my checking account so I can pay my car? It'll be done that day. So a personal loan is an option. Now this one I do not recommend, but if it comes to being able to hold a job and not hold a job, you can borrow the money from friends and family. Now the problem with that is, if you have a problem making the payment, you got a whole lot more there to lose than just money. Now here's another option that people don't want to consider, but it is an option. If something happens to your car, and you got $1,000 bill, is there anything in your house or your apartment that you could sell that's worth $1,000? Maybe TV, some tools, some collectibles. Anything is better than paying interest to somebody else. Go sell it. You can always buy it back later when you get the money. And I don't mean a pawn shop, because that's paying interest also. Just sell it. And a lot of times you won't be able to do that on the spot. It might take a week or so, and you might be inconvenienced for a week or so. But you could use this in conjunction with another part of the plan, like a credit card, then go sell something off, pay the credit card off. But that's an option. Now here's one for people that are employed and have been employed for a while. And I did this one many, many years ago. And I don't know why it is that people that supposedly have a lot of money can't handle $1,000 bill, but it's true. So if you have that issue and you can't come up with the cash to make that happen, borrow from your retirement account. Now, bad idea. Nobody likes to do it. That will cost you money, penalties, blah, blah, blah. How bad do you need your car? Another option would be a line of credit at your bank. Now, why is a line of credit different than an overdraft protection? Overdraft protection, in theory, should not cost you anything day to day. A line of credit will. They usually have a carrying cost on a line of credit. Whatever it is. $5 a month, $10, whatever. But a line of credit is there at your disposal so that you can write a check for it. You have to pay the interest, but how bad do you need your car? And here's the ultimate. This is one I would never ever recommend, but if it's between being able to get to your job and this, I would do this. Get a second mortgage on a piece of property or an automobile. Now, if you get one on an automobile, you will be paying exorbitant interest. So I don't recommend that. But a lot of times you can get a line of credit or a second mortgage on your property. It might take a month or so to get done, but if you have that set up in advance, a second mortgage line of credit on your property, then you can tap into that. And again, you will pay the bank interest and money, but you have to ask yourself, which is more important? Having a vehicle to get back and forth to work, in my opinion, is more important than any of the things we just talked about. The most important thing is you should be getting yourself prepared for $1,000 bill. If there's nothing going on right now and everything's fine, make yourself an emergency fund and get $1,000 in there as quick as you can. And here's how I preach. It doesn't matter when you get to $1,000. You don't stop. You just go at it not as aggressively, and every month you just have it automatically taken out of your paycheck or out of your checking account and put into your savings account. You always add to your emergency fund for the rest of your life. Because you never know how big the emergency is going to be. What if you have a $10,000 deductible on your house and it burns to the ground? So you got to be able to handle emergencies so that they don't sink you financially. So I always recommend an emergency fund. Now, what I gave you today was 15 different ways to handle an emergency financially when you don't have the money. You guys have a great day, a great week, and happy investing and saving.